Welcome to our November edition of IBA Stage, which is live through our Zoom, if you registered, as well as through our YouTube channel. With us today, we are extremely happy to have Solange Farkas and VideoBrasil to discuss the latest edition, which is the 22nd, which also marks the 40th year of VideoBrasil, so a very important occasion. The edition was called Memory is an Editing Station, and I'm sure we will hear from Solange how this title came to be. It's a reference to a verse of a Brazilian poet. As I said, we are extremely happy to have Solange Farkas with us. For those of you that were part of the General Assembly this year, we had also a chance of visiting VideoBrasil and of having a wonderful introduction, not just to this year's, but to the last 40 years of activity of this very important association by Solange. For those that haven't and that might know Solange a bit less, I'll just quickly introduce you before giving you the floor. So with 40 years, with 4 decades of professional activity in the cultural field, Solange Farkas was chief curator at the Museu de Arte Moderna de Bahia. As a guest curator, she has taken part of Fuso in Portugal, Dakar, the Biennial of Contemporary Art in Dakar, to the 6th Jakarta International Video Festival, in Indonesia, the 10th Sharjah Biennial, as well as being part of the curatorial team of the last Sharjah Biennial. The 5th Video Zone International Video Art Biennial. And of course, she is the founder and director of the Associação Cultural VideoBrasil. I hope my Portuguese was not terrible. I'm sure it was. And she has been taken up the role of artistic director of the festival and biennial SESC VideoBrasil since its 3rd edition in 1983, dedicated to the growth of both its collection and the wide network of international partners on all 5 continents. VideoBrasil, if you're less familiar, is a platform that builds on and foster the dialogue between southern countries, let's call them. So South-South dialogue since the very beginning. And I'm sure we will have a chance to talk more about why this choice, why it was relevant in the 80s and so on. Of course, the last thing that I want to mention in regards to Solange is that she has been a board member of IBA for a few years now, and a very important contributor to our discussions. Yeah, I think I will close it there and give you the floor so we have more time to talk about VideoBrasil and less about bureaucracy or ourselves. And I want to really thank you for being here. I hope that everybody else, both here and that will follow the video afterwards, will appreciate the importance of your work. Thank you, Solange.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for being here. And then it's a great pleasure to talk a little bit about the last edition of VideoBrasil to our audience. And well, as you mentioned, 4 decades after creating VideoBrasil Festival in 1983, in the final years of the dictatorship that devastated Brazil for 2 decades, this year we held this 22nd edition of the Biennial. We take place at SESC 24 de Maio. It's really downtown of São Paulo. And then the Biennial will be there till February for the next year. Under the title of Memory as an Editing Station, the exhibition dialogues with this long trajectory of the decades of the event. At the same time that it reflects the present moment in the world and points to future paths through the works of 60 artists and collectives from the Global South. I invited curators Rafael Fonseca from Brazil and René Aklek-Mboya from Kenya to be partner in this edition conception and curatorial process. In addition to the main exhibition, with more than 100 works by artists from different points of the world, the edition also presents the parallel exhibition special 40 years. It's a kind of immersion in the VideoBrasil collection, curated by two young curators, Alessandra Bergamassi and Eduardo de Jesus. I intend to present here a small overview of these two exhibitions, the ideas that guided them, and consequently, a little about VideoBrasil long trajectory. To do this, we begin with showing an introductory video made to present this edition. We can see this small video, and then we can continue talking about.
A 22ª edição da Bienal Sesc VideoBrasil considera uma edição especialíssima na trajetória do VideoBrasil, que está comemorando esse ano, em agosto, 40 anos. Então, é uma Bienal que fala da sua própria história.
A 22ª Bienal, ela se intitula A Memória é uma Ilha de Edição. Esse é um título que surgiu de forma muito espontânea, digamos assim, e surgiu também tendo consciência, primeiro, que se trata do VideoBrasil, ou seja, um evento que historicamente foi muito dedicado ao vídeo, também pensando que são os 40 anos do evento, e como também, claro, uma vez que a gente tem já há alguns anos a possibilidade de inscrições em outras linguagens também, como que essa relação entre a memória e a imagem pode passar por outras mídias, como a escultura, como a pintura, como a fotografia, e daí por diante. Há muitas formas de pensar memória, e há muitas formas de pensar essa noção de ilha de edição, de esquecimento, de lembrança na 22ª Bienal.
A memória é uma ilha de edição.
O que o público vai ver esse ano na 22ª edição da Bienal são duas exposições, uma exposição extremamente potente, com várias linguagens e principalmente com a presença de artistas desse lugar do mundo que o VideoBrasil se debruçou e tem como missão ao longo dos 40 anos, que é iluminar a trajetória de artistas do sul global.
Paralela à exposição principal, a gente tem uma exposição que chama Especial 40 anos e que mostra essa evolução da Bienal e, consequentemente, da mídia, da história política desse lugar do mundo.
Especial 40 anos na biblioteca do Sesc e pretende contar a história do VideoBrasil a partir de um mergulho em seu acervo. São 4 décadas de trajetória. A gente pensou, eu, Eduardo de Jesus e toda a equipe, a gente não queria congelar a história e a trajetória do VideoBrasil em uma história linear, mas criar pontos de entrada para que as pessoas pudessem criar próprios os percursos entre constelações de obras e também temas que são muito relevantes ao longo da história, que são a arqueologia das mídias, questões tecnológicas, pautas políticas, e como o VideoBrasil foi um teatro muito importante para esses percursos das linguagens.
No VideoBrasil sempre foi fundamental trabalhar os programas públicos, que é você desdobrar as questões postas pelas obras, pelos curadores, em encontros, em falas, em textos e para o público, com a perspectiva de iluminar essas questões trazidas pela arte contemporânea, assim como melhorar a fruição dos trabalhos a partir dessa troca com curadores, os artistas convidados e também o modo dos artistas interagir com a cena local. E o Sesc é um lugar que potencializa tudo isso.
It was very important for us to create extensions within the public program that relate to the core themes of the exhibition, being memory specifically. This idea of memory as an editing station is certainly in its core an invitation to the people who interact with a concept to recreate and kind of like re-narrativize. And one of the ways in which we can identify with each other and create positions of solidarity is in remembering together, remembering collectively, and finding ways to articulate notions of memory that re-establish our political positions and our commitment towards each other. So the public program was a way of introducing like another forum, another format, another space in which people could make interpretations on the work that they've seen in the exhibition, but then also on their experiences being here in Sao Paulo specifically.
A memória, como diria o Ali, é uma ilha de edição. Cada um vai poder editar a partir das suas memórias, das suas perspectivas, algumas narrativas. E isso a gente está apostando e pagando para ver.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the main exhibition. It was designed based on the verse of Wally Salomão. He's a Brazilian poetry. The curatorial focus of the main exhibition presents different views and ways of dealing with memory and forgetting, whether individual or collective, linked to various social, political, and cultural contexts. The diverse idea of memory that emerged at the Biennial vary not only according to the generation of the participant artists, but also their geographic origin and the medium and support they use, such as video installations, photography, performance, and textile, and then a lot of sculpture too. The global south that appeared in the edition with artists from 38 countries in Africa, American, Asian, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Oceania, include representative of indigenous peoples, also reflect the post-pandemic global context. With significant space for audiovisual language based on the perception of the central role that videos occupy in contemporary life. The edition traces a direct dialogue with the beginnings of VideoBrasil. Composed based on a response to the event's open call, it is a very important point for VideoBrasil to invite artists, but most part of them comes from to attend the open call, which proposed an exercise around the very idea of memory. The main exhibition is inevitable refers to process and the promise that were flourishing, albeit timidly and precariously, in these 4 decades of VideoBrasil, attesting to the arc described by the video as the whole material of art, the foundation for the construction of new language. And once again, celebrate the contamination between languages that the medium has brought to the center of contemporary production, undoing categories and challenging certainties. In this image, you can see all the artists take part of this edition. It's a funny picture we did during the opening. You can see how many attend to the biennial. It was beautiful to see different artists from different parts of the world in a very, very, very beautiful meeting in the open week. It was very beautiful panorama to see, to put people together, to try to develop some work together, and then to be a friend for the forever. That's the whole idea of the biennial, to be a encounter platform. By inviting artists selected from more than 2,500 entries, 2,500 entries, to visit, they interrogate the mechanism of memory, this biennial becomes especially review of the revolutionary power that materialize in the encounter between the possibility of video and the force of reality. Through video and archives, memory and personal experience figure significantly in effective reconstruction of historical facts. The transit between the personal and the collective generation, new articulation of subjectivity and history, and contribute to elaborating traumas from the past that have a unique impact of the life of men and women concerning entire community. This was not always so clear. Here, well, we will see some photos that show the main exhibition largely set up on the 50th floor of the building. It's a vertical building in the really downtown of São Paulo, but the exhibition was set up in different levels of the building, but the 50th floor is the main show. And then you can see, and then it's a very special building place because it is in the middle of the really downtown city. The SESC. It's a really powerful institution in São Paulo. Try to be to do a democratization of not just about visual arts, to access people to this kind of experience. And then we can see different photos. This image you can see, well, yes, in this sculpture comes from the artist Ali Cherry from Beirut. Three sculpture. Behind them, you can see the one beautiful, three beautiful textiles from Antonio Pichila. He's an artist from Guatemala. It's a beautiful, beautiful work. And then here, it's another view of the show. You can see the photos in the right side, photos from Samuel Fossot. It's a very important African photographer. He's quite well known in Europe. He lives in Central Africa. And then you can see the one image from the Chinese artist in front. And then here you can see the beautiful work from Mela Jarman. She's a Dutch artist living in Indonesia, And then in the opposite side, you can see the video from Mauricio Chaves from the Brazilian young artist. Yeah, and then another artist from, this is from Colombia, indigenous artists, with a lot of great indigenous artists take part of this exhibition of VideoBrasil. And then it is the main place of the show. This is another face of the show. You can see this sculpture in the middle from Brazilian artists. And then in the top of the wall, you can see the piece of the Australian artist. He's a very good artist. And then he has a neon piece in the drawing. This is another Brazil. It's a Mexican young artist. Is the middle of this piece. It's a piece related to the memory of cinema and then the images movement. Is a kind of train. And then it's moved, which it's a very, very intricate piece, and it's totally related about the idea of memory. And then this is one work from the Kenyan artist. It's a beautiful work. She did this piece. Some of this work was realized here during the process of setup of the show. And then this artist in the other one, she did the piece, finalized the piece during the residence program here in the process of residence. And then you can see how the piece was related with the residence program, because this residence called the Caiçá residence is in the here in São Paulo, but close to the sea, to the ocean, to the forest. And then she spent time there, and then she bring to the piece a lot of references of the residence area in that piece. It's very beautiful. It was so the Rafael. This the creation of this exhibition space was especially designed by Rafael Fonseca. He's a young curator, Brazilian one, and then who has a beautiful vision of the show of the contemporary art. He's a really. He gave us a kind of how he filtered the idea of tropicalia, relate with the Wally Salomon, for example. How he's put this on the show. You can see how it's colorful, happy, and then really strong way to see or to talking about the memory. He did a big choice of work. He did in a very, very, very in a very good way with this the artist. It was beautiful. It is a really, really let's say, I'm so happy with the result of the show, because Rafael did in a very beautiful way. He was, he is young, and then he has a lot of energy to put on the show, to deal with the artist. This is, you can see this red and white faixas. I don't know in English how we call this. Fatal and violeto. This is the important phrase, comes from Wally Salomon to this, because he worked at the 70s and 80s a lot with a great musician in Brazil as a director of the shows, of the musical presentations, and then he did this with the other designer here to put on the scenery of the show of Gal Costa, which is very important musician, singer in Brazil, and then become a quite of iconic piece of that period of Tropicalia in Brazil. And then we put the original material he did for the show. We bring it to the exhibition too. It's very beautiful and very iconic. Yeah, we can see different faces of the show. This is another Brazilian artist, really very young artist, talking about it's this piece. It's one big panel with different videos and other material, but all these relate with the she deal with the idea of archive, and then it's very personal piece. You can see many different sides of the video relate with the family memories. It was very beautiful and very colorful too. It's a very interesting piece. This is from one great artist, comes from Curaçao. It is yeah, it's beautiful. It's another face of the show. That painting from it is from the one collective of artists from Australia or New Zealand. It's very beautiful painting for indigenous people from that area. And then you can see again another face of Alicia He piece with Gabriela, Camila, and Sada, her group, on the floor. It is, yes, this is a very beautiful piece on the couple from Slovenia. I don't know, I forgot the country, but it's a very beautiful piece, very iconic piece, especially if you think about it's deal completely with the idea of archive, of the memory of videos. It is a kind of present for VideoBrasil, this piece. It is really strong and then have piece. It was a kind of big effort to set up in the hangout of this the silly of the beauty of this piece, but it's very, very, very special. And then this is the piece you can see outside of the building. It's so beautiful. It was one of the winner of the show. The artist comes from Minas Gerais, is another state of São Paulo, Brazil. He called it his Freud, the name of the artist, and then this piece is very beautiful and smart, clever guy, and then the work deal with the idea of course, of the memory of the talk. It's more related with the idea of deal with the word comes from the internet, and then we can see different phrases, really clever, beautiful phrases. It looks like aleatory, but it's not really. It's beautiful and impressive piece. And then it's very important to have this piece face to the street. You can see this more clearly, especially in this building, in this area. With a lot of people live on the street, and then this piece make a lot of sense in that place. I would also like to talk a little bit about the 14 years show. It was set up in a separate space in the same building at the SESC at the 4th floor, with the 22 Sesc Video Brasil Biennial, we celebrate 14 years of work and research around artist production from the Global South. It is an opportunity to say you starting from a very different moment in time. To the images, work, publications, and documents that make up the collection created by the event since 1983, which was the first time we did the Video Brasil. Not for the mere pleasure of remembrance, although this is legitimate intention, of course. What the ephemerides impose on us is the exercise of creating, in the gaps between present and the historical time, dialogues and approach capable of triggering new layers of meaning, updating clues about the contribution and future paths, not only of what we create, but of the production that we choose to represent. In the spirit of Wally Salomão, a verse that gives the title of this edition, we edit our memories in the light of a new present. With more than 3,000 video work of recent Brazilian audiovisual production and from different regions of the Global South, including performances and interviews with artists and curators, the Video Brasil Historical Collection is the material instance of this trajectory, the platform that feeds developers and the reason of being part of Video Brasil as an institution. Result of the Herculean effort and intensive dedication of the curators Alessandra Begamati, you see in the video, and Eduardo de Jesus, to one I could not be more than grateful. The special 40 years exhibitions delve into the collection to point out at the correlated some of the many processes that can be examined from it. The evolution of video language as a form of expression in the contemporary visual art scene over almost half a century of experimentation and hybridization is certainly among them, but no less the historical and geopolitical relationship that found, move, and allow us to bring production close to the symbolic region that is our central axis of actions. Here we can see another short video in which the curators talking a little bit about the exhibition.
A exposição 40 anos é uma espécie de convite ao público a criar uma imersão na história do Vídeo Brasil. É como se fosse uma espécie de ponto de partida para acessar um arquivo. É um primeiro encaminhamento. Ao contrário de um objeto pronto e inteiro, como se fosse uma memória inteira, é um trajeto e um ponto de partida que as pessoas vão interagir com a linha, com as imagens, ver os filmes, os vídeos na videoteca e tudo, e a partir daí construir uma memória.
Ponto de partida é essa linha do tempo que está nas paredes. É como se fosse um grande rizoma com pontos de acesso a vários programas na videoteca. E a partir de uma linha que a gente chama de linha de imagens, que são frames de filmes que a gente considerou relevantes por razões políticas ou estéticas ao longo dessa trajetória do Vídeo Brasil. Então essa é como se fosse o esqueleto da exposição. A exposição é dividida em 4 períodos e os filmes dessas 4 épocas são exibidos na sequência em que eles aparecem na linha, nessas TV Cubo aqui do lado, que enfim a gente foi norteado pelo Wally Salomão, que está aqui atrás, que dá o título à Bienal, Sesc Vídeo Brasil. A memória é uma ilha de edição, então a gente pensou em vários tipos de ilhas de edição dessa memória. A linha é como se fosse uma ilha de edição gráfica, enfim, e a gente pensou até de uma espacialização dessa memória Eu acho bem interessante porque, como o Edu bem disse, isso não é um projeto fechado. E a ideia de performatividade do acervo, que é uma ideia que vem de uma teórica que se chama Simone Osthoff, de uma historiadora da arte, enfim, é que esses acervos possam ser ativados por relações do público, interativas e interpessoais, para que o acervo ganhe cada vez novas formas. Então, aqui é um espaço de pesquisa.
A gente levou ao máximo a máxima do Ali Salomão, que é a memória é uma ilha de edição. Então, aqui é um lugar para as pessoas entrarem em contato desde a linha de imagens e, a partir daí, construindo seus próprios trajetos, editando.
Yes, this is just a small view of this special show. But to conclude, I would say that looking at VideoBrasil's past reviews, paradoxically, a constant movement of listen to features. Although they certainly did not contribute to facilitating the assimilation of the contour of the event, successive changes in name, periodicity, format, scope, languages represent, its pauses and silences, moments of reevaluation and reorientations, reflect the desire and restlessness to welcome and give visibility to that which had no form yet. The need to recognize and give way to what this was latent in the production submitted to the festival, not only justify the risks of projecting an image that is neither linear nor fixed, but it becomes active participation in the construction of words and concepts that were not always clear, mapped, or present as they are today. In addition to this powerful exhibition with 60 contemporary artists, the 22nd Biennial VideoBrasil depends on feeling that safeguarding the institution's collection as an enormous responsibility, especially in a country marked by the chronic absence of consistent policies for preservation of cultural heritage. In a renewed political environment in our country that, after all, seeks to face the human and right losses of recent years. Our willingness to keep alive, active, and available to all the production of a region that, as we perceive with joy from the age of all 4 decades of dedication, it just beginning to show its strength to the world. I think it's enough because about English, but I think
I think it was wonderful, and you really don't need to apologize for your English. It was perfect. And I think you guided us very kindly and passionately, I think, through a show that, as you mentioned, had all, or has, for those that still can go visit it. I really liked your reference to Tropicalia and so on, and the fact that this is adapted, of course, to the contemporary context, to the curatorial projects that the 2 curators and yourself developed. But it maintains that colorfulness and, at the same time, the awareness of some of the heaviness of or some of the importance of the topics that are being treated. No? So don't be fooled by the colors, but quite the opposite. No, the colors are there to signify the importance of the subjects rather than the lightness of them. And I think that was very important. And I also really loved seeing the work of this artist from Minas Gerais that you showed, that is facing the street. because it really gives a signal of this openness, and even though the main exhibition is inside, of course, but it is a window to the city, and having been in that area recently, I understand the importance of it, definitely.
Yes, nice to hear.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. If you don't mind, and if you want, I would like to go through a few questions that I thought about. And maybe I can start with a reference to a reference to a quote of Danilo Santos de Miranda, who sadly passed away recently, and I know how close you were, both in terms of personal friendship and of course institutional connection and collaboration through his work at SESC.
Yes.
And yeah, I found it very very beautiful that in the press release that you sent, his words they recall this commitment by yourself, but by SESC in general, to be a very I would say inclusive and aware of all the importance of a democratic process. So an institution that is aware of these structures, and of course also aware of when they're failing. And I'm referencing, of course, the last few years. And I think, having followed both your approach, but also SESC's approach in general, I would be interested in understanding in which different ways this particular edition tries to create opportunities within Sao Paulo to activate this dialogue, which, as you mentioned, is a global South dialogue, but I'm sure it also has reflection to what you talk and what you present on a local scale in terms of politics, in terms of social awareness, and so on.
Well, let's start with Danilo. A fundamental aspect in the history of VideoBrasil, which allowed this expansion and transformation, was the partnership with SESC São Paulo, which began in the 9th edition, which was 1992, and to a large extent happening through the figure of Danilo Santos de Miranda. He was a visionary guy, sensitive, who bet on VideoBrasil at a time when no one could have imagined that my choices for that period would work out. And then he did. A time when there was a lot of prejudice against video within the artist world, whether in the visual arts or in cinema, and also when this look at the geopolitical south of the world was not understood in that period. When I realized that the festival, because in that period was a festival, not biennial, needed to internationalize, look at our partner from the South, and furthermore, that the video no longer just fits in the dark room, in the black box, that it's needed to go to exhibition space. It was the partnership with SESC that allowed this expansion. It was really true. Video has always had a chameleonic, I used to say that, had a chameleonic nature of intuitivity, or purposely went to dialogue and to strengthen itself through dialogue with other language or other expression in the field of art. So such as in installation and performance, and something needed to change in the format of the biennial so that this work grow and become what it is today. And then we started to occupy the space of Sesc Pompeia. It's another building, really iconic too, because it was restored by Lina Bobardi, very important Italian architect living in Brazil. Initially, and then at other Sesc venue in the city, because you used to do the biennial in different venues. It was very important to Danilo. Venue in the city, with exhibitions, installations, and performances, working with what was called expanded video and the many possibilities of electronic art. Later, around 2010, we definitely opened up to all artist practices, effectively becoming a contemporary art biennial. All this process takes long, and then it was just possible because Danilo had, an open mind to say, okay, let's do that. Let's see. It's feel in a good. It makes sense. I don't know why, but he take a risk a lot. It was like really like a wonderful father. Along this entire path since the 99s, you go from something small, no less important, but from a much smaller structural point of view to being a space for research, for encouraging the participation of artists from other parts of the world, always with the fundamental premise of creating a platform for artists here in Brazil to meet other similar places culturally, socially, and politically. I think this is an achievement, and this is very much related to this bet that Sesc made in our proposition. Sesc is a place that enhances of all of this. It is a place that starts with thinking about art for everyone. Think about art not just for the art system, thinking about art as a training for civil servants, for students, for people passing through, for all social classes. This is completely important for the whole trajectory of VideoBrasil. So VideoBrasil grow a lot of this investment and this understanding support from Sesc for a project of this nature. Speaking also of this dialogue with the city, in addition to this internal exhibition space and exchange with public space, the street has intensified over the years. We had an edition, for example, in which the artist Olafur Eliasson spread work through to the city. This year, in this edition, as you mentioned, the work of Freud, a Brazilian artist from Minas Gerais, occupy an external space in the Sesc building where any passerby can see the work in the window and listen to the music and images in a direct exchange with the entire population that passed through the center of São Paulo, include homeless people. I think it's, you can feel the importance of Sesc to power of VideoBrasil. It was a kind of a happy encounter, you see.
Yeah, and I think it's a signal, I think, as well. No, it's I mean, of course, it's this specific artwork, but I think it's the philosophy behind it is very much
sure
behind
sure.
visible behind the whole project of VideoBrasil. Yeah. I'm trying to rearrange my thoughts 1 second. We talked about the work that you just mentioned that has a phase relationship, let's say a direct relationship with the city. But one thing that I think emerged from your description of the whole project of VideoBrasil, but also of this edition, in which Rafael quotes this element in which he's underlining how the decentralizing discourse around contemporary art is essential to this curatorial project. But I do think that it kind of goes very much in line also with your idea of when you founded VideoBrasil, of creating this focus on the southern, let's say the world's southern countries and production of art in the global south. And so maybe I can ask you, I know it's always difficult to pick out one work or a few works and so on, but maybe just to exemplify how this, or like what are the most relevant moments and elements of dialogue now, not with the city, but between countries of the global south that emerge from this edition. And maybe I can add one little question, which I was thinking about while listening to you, but I can add it afterwards. But the addition would be the very idea, I think, of global south has probably changed quite a lot in the 40 years that you've been working on this. And of course, it would be way too much to ask you how much it has changed. But maybe just at hands of the works this year, you can give me a little, or you can give us, of course, not just myself. You can give us a sense of how you think this idea changed, because it's more the idea of Global South that changed, I think, over the years.
Well, it's, of course, it changed a lot. Because in the beginning, when I think about to internationalize the biennial, and then the first idea was to invite international artists, normal, like worldwide. But when I did my first trip to research out of Brazil to invite artists, and then I realized of course the first trip was to Europe and the United States. We are colonized people, and then I realized that, especially in France, which was the first stop, it was a 2 years travel to make this change for VideoBrasil. And then I realized people really didn't know about Brazilian artists or Latin America or African. And then I can't see these artists in different shows I saw in that period. And then I realized what was very important to the VideoBrasil to start a research on these countries like Brazil in a cultural sense level, and then the idea to have here a panorama of a country like Brazil. In that time, it was 90s, in the beginning of 90s. This concept of global south wasn't there, And then I had to put one name, one frame for this choice. And then I realized was, for example, okay, let's do as a South Panorama or Southern Panorama. And then I start to travel to Argentina, Chile for the first time in life. They are really close of me, but it was completely out of our, let's say, plans to, and then it was in the beginning, it was in 1889, that the first edition of the internationalized the biennial. And then I did with this, in that time, I realized, okay, let's have put artists like Brazilian artists together to show this for the European people and the American people. And then it was the first edition. It was so strong, so surprised strong, because nobody here in Brazil have this experience to see works from this part of the world, and then how we are far away culturally, and then really close geographically, and really well connected conceptually. And then it was a quite surprise for me. And then, okay, this is the way what the VideoBrasil have to follow to open this window to have artists from, for example, Africa. It was my first investment in the research, for example, because culturally make a lot of sense, especially for me. I come from Bahia, and then Bahia have a lot of really strong connection historically with Africa. And then in that time, it is like a challenge, and new things happen to show artists from this part of the world how we are very far away, but really well connected. And then in that sense, it was a kind of just an insight to show this, to put the VideoBrasil as a window for these places. But now, for example, of course, it's become a very important window for artists from this part of the world. But how it's changed, it was your question, no? To today. I think it's continuously research to see, and then I can find this global south is a really big area in the world. Really, is still disconnected, especially in the art fields. In this, for example, here in South America, we don't know each other enough. And then I think it still have a lot of things to do to make more strong the connection between us, not just between artists, but between institutions, between thinkers in this part of the world. But I think it is the idea of the change in this, the changes in this part of the world, the global south. For me, it's still wonderful surprise, wonderful possibility to know a little bit more about our roots connection, for example, how we have more things in common than, and then for me, it's clear we have, I don't know, I don't think so if I have the right answer for your question. But my feelings, I still have to make this connection between South and South more strong, and then continue to work on this direction, to make this exchange between us. You know, I think this is, well, we still have a lot of things to do, especially in this part of the world, Brazil, for example, because we are really far away from everywhere. But we have, especially in this sadly time with a lot of conflicts, for example, like Palestine situation. I think in this, when you see, for example, the show, the exhibition, you see this colorful and strong piece comes from this part of the world as a statement how to see, let's say, look how we are strong individually, as individually countries, but as a how you know, it's not a sad and then show, for example. It's an opposite situation. It's a kind of a statement, how we are culturally strong enough to survive this kind of oppressions comes from the colonized countries, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's also a reminder of the importance of a feeling of solidarity and actions of solidarity between exactly. Countries, yes. Especially of the South. But I would extend it to everyone. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, but because we know the power dynamics between the center and
it's very important.
Yeah.
I think solidarity is the key word nowadays, more than ever.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we unfortunately see very little of that in the world in recent days. But yeah. I had prepared another question, but I do think that we kind of went through the most important things, and I don't want to steal too much of your time. I know it's also it's tiring to speak for so long. I understand that very well from the other position. But I do want to thank you again for today, but really for your commitment and engagement and passion in the last 40 years. I definitely advise everyone that can travel to Sao Paulo to come by and see this edition of VideoBrasil, which is I think until the end of February still on display.
25 of February, yeah.
And of course also the special show which is dedicated to the memory of VideoBrasil to these last 40 years. We had a wonderful presentation while the show was still in the making, while we were there. So, you know, if I have to give a wish, it would be to come and see not only the main show, but also that. But for everyone really traveling to Sao Paulo, or that is in Sao Paulo, we definitely advise to go to see both. And it's, as you said, it's integrated, but there are two different exhibitions. And yeah, I want to thank you for today, for your commitment, of course, for your participation in IBA, which has been very much fruitful and inspiring. So I hope that this is one of many moments in which we can discuss and in which we can talk about VideoBrasil and any other important shows that is happening there.
Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone. And then I hope you can do that. You can come here to see the show. You will see the power of the the work comes from the biennial. And then you can have a beautiful discovery, for example, to see wonderful artists coming from abroad. And well, and then to understand a little bit more about the trajectory of VideoBrasil and then the relation with the incredible SESC as institution. It's a kind of, let's say, I forgot the word, sorry about my poor English.
No worries.
And you see, I'm not so young anymore. It was
What's the word in Portuguese? Maybe we can catch some of our
utopia. That's it.
okay.
That's well, I hope. I hope if you can come, and then if you have time, it's till February, and then I will be here, and then I hope we can meet abroad. In one of our biennial from the group of biennial take part of IBA. And then thank you so much. And then sorry about my poor English. And you have, we have a website for VideoBrasil. It's very easy. And then you can follow the whole program till February if you go there for VideoBrasil. Website, and then in the social media, and you have a really nice inputs there. You can follow things, and then, well, thank you again.
Thank you, Solange. I also want to thank Karina, that was helping you behind the scenes, and of course also our colleague Jennifer, who is always helping myself from behind the scenes and making our online presence possible, as well as everything else that is connected with IBA. And yes, as you mentioned, please do feel free to visit all the social media sites of VideoBrasil. They're very well taken care of and active. And in the same way, of course, I want to suggest to anyone who is watching this, of course, also to keep track of our next activities through our websites and our social media channels. And I think with this, I can say goodbye and hope to see you in the very near future. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.